What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. So today we're going to be talking about the top 10 cars that you guys can get for $30,000. And be sure to stick to the end because the last car will absolutely blow your mind on how fast it is.
Yeah, I know. Hardly anybody goes to the south side, but you don't want
Now, coming in at number 1, we have the 2015 Nissan 370Z NISMO. And this is a really big enthusiast car. It comes with 350 horsepower. You can also get them in a 6-speed manual. And the overall body lines and design of this car are very unique. And it almost looks like a Porsche. And I guess that's why they call it 370Z the poor man's Porsche. And they're also super rare. Like, I hardly ever see 370Zs in general, but when it's an actual NISMO, that just changes it completely. These cars also sound really good when you get the right exhaust for them. I don't recommend a Tomei or a single exit exhaust, but if you get some art pipes or an AAM exhaust, they can really open up this car to make it one of the best sounding V6s. And I would say in comparison into getting like a G37 or a G35, this car is definitely a really good alternative. Now, coming in at number 2, we have the 2018 Ford Mustang GT. And I specifically said a 2018 because that's the first time that they put a 10-speed in the Mustang. And because they put a 10-speed in it, it's able to compete against a lot of different cars, and it has a 0 to 60 of like 4.2 seconds. And the reason as to why so many people love this car is because it has the amazing sound of that Coyote motor, and it's arguably one of the best sounding V8s out there. And let me tell you, like, I'm sitting in a 2015 Lexus RCF. This is a V8, and I would have to do quite a lot to the exhaust to make it sound as good as a Mustang GT, because with the Mustang GT you can just do like a muffler, resonator delete on the car, and it sounds amazing. There's also a huge community behind this car. There's tons of different aftermarket parts and body kits that you can get, and it comes with over 400 horsepower, so you can have some fun with this thing. Just don't be like the average Mustang owner that loves to hit crowds of people leaving car meets, because that seems like the curse that everyone gets when they purchase this car. Now, coming in at number 3, we have the 2023 Toyota GR86. Now, this car looks really nice, and obviously it's a successor of the previous generation, and they completely changed the front end, the back end of the car, and it almost looks like an exotic. The only downside about it is that it gets barely over 200 horsepower, but if you purchase this car, you're not looking to get tons of power out of it. And I mean, it's a turbocharged 4-cylinder. You're looking to get some handles with the car. You're looking to get this car to take it to the mountains and have some fun. You know, it's a manual transmission. There's tons of different aftermarket parts you can get for it. But if you're a true driver enthusiast and you just want to have fun, I recommend it for $30,000. And then coming in at number 4, and this car is one of my all-time favorite V8s, and that's a 2011 E92 M3. And you can either get them in the coupe version or the sedan version. There has never been another V8 that BMW has produced that sounds this good. When you get an exhaust for this car, it really opens it up and it sounds so brutal. And it's one of the most aggressive sounding cars I've ever heard. And they come with around 400 to 500 horsepower. And the thing with these cars is that they sound a lot better than the newer BMWs. And sure, they have a V8 in the new M5 competition, and this may be a little bit controversial. I think the E92 V8 sounds a lot better. Just imagine if they took that same motor that was in the E92 M3, put it in the new M5 competition, turbocharged it, it would sound out of this world. The only thing that you have to watch out for these cars is that once they approach 100,000 miles, you want to make sure that the rod bearings get done. And most previous owners know about this, so they get them replaced, but you just want to make sure. And I do believe that these cars are going to go up in value over time just because of how unique and classic they are. Now, coming in at number 5, we have a 2018 Infiniti Q60 Red Sport. It's a twin turbocharged V6, and you can make a pretty good amount of power with it. With just like a tune or downpipe, you can make around 500 plus horsepower. And they also make a Q50 Red Sport, but that one is a sedan. I do believe that the Q60 looks a lot better just because it's a coupe, and the front end and the back end and the sides of the car look super unique. And once you soup these cars up, you lower it, put it on wheels or bags, this thing almost looks like a supercar. I feel like a lot of people sleep on these cars or just don't understand what's under the hood, but being able to make that much horsepower just from the factory with a V6, that can do a lot of damage. And if you were to get the Q50 Red Sport, it's pretty unsuspecting, right? You see this car on the road, it just looks like a regular sedan. It looks like a regular family car, but once you line up with it at the light and you get gapped by it, then you're gonna know what it is. And then coming in at number 6, we have a 2010 BMW M5. And I'm sure you guys know just how infamous this car is. It has 500 horsepower and it has a naturally aspirated V10. And with the right exhaust on this car, it literally sounds like a Lamborghini. Just imagine being able to gap so many cars at the light, all while taking your kids to school. And the car looks like a sleeper. You know, when you look at this car on the road, it pretty much just looks like any other 5 Series. But when you pop the hood and you see that massive V10 in there, that's going to blow your mind. And the reason as to why I put this on this list for $30,000 is that if you spend $30,000 on this car, you might be able to find one in really good condition and one that's been maintained. Because as you guys probably know, these are one of the most unreliable cars that you could ever get because they have so many different plastic parts, so many different electrical issues that BMW really didn't address. But if the maintenance has been kept up on it, you know, people warmed up the car before they started driving crazy, then I do believe that you'll enjoy every single penny that you spend on this car. And you can actually find them for under $30,000, and I think it's the cheapest route that you can go to get that exotic sound from a sedan. Whatever you do, just don't purchase a clapped out one from a third-party dealership that looks super shady. Try to find one that has been owned by an old gentleman, one that is a one-owner car, because from there you know that the car has been in good hands and it's been well maintained. Now coming in at number 7, we have a 2010 Lexus ISF. And I know what you guys are thinking. Oh, you're such an ISF fanboy, such an F-car fanboy. I am, okay? At the end of the day, I am. But the reason as to why I put this car on this list for $30,000 is that you can actually find a 2010 Lexus ISF which has a factory LSD. So you're going to be able to do donuts a lot easier with the car. And this car is also a naturally aspirated V8. Comes with 416 horsepower from the factory. It's an 8-speed transmission. And because it is a Lexus and a Toyota, it's going to last a very long time. These cars, even with 150,000 to 200,000 plus miles on them, are still kicking strong like they have just been broken in. And as long as oil changes have been kept up with, the fluids have been changed, let me tell you guys, the parts on these cars will last a very, very long time without you having to worry about. Now, don't get me wrong, the aftermarket support for those cars, or F cars in general, is kind of bad. You can't get that much power out of them unless you supercharge them, which is like an extra $10,000. But if you want something reliable, something that looks good, something that's rear-wheel drive, and has a pretty good amount of power, then there you go. It also serves as a perfect daily because it is a 4-door, and it has some pretty decent trunk space. Next, coming in at number 8, we have a 2022 Hyundai Veloc N. Now, I'm no Hyundai fan, but Hyundai has really stepped up their game in the design of their cars, and this car comes with 270 horsepower, and it's a turboed 4-cylinder. And you can get them in either a 6-speed manual or a 8-speed automatic. These cars look super modern, they look great on the front and back side, they have a decent amount of space as well, and although they don't have that much horsepower from the factory, you can still have fun with this car. They don't weigh all that much. They're really just a driver enthusiast car, just like the Toyota GR86. And all I gotta say is I'm pretty excited to see what other cars Hyundai puts out over the next couple of years, because they truly have the enthusiast in mind, unlike a lot of other companies now. And then coming in at number 9, we have a 2009 Corvette Stingray. Now these cars come with 430 horsepower with an LS motor, and they have a 0 to 60 of around 4.1 to 4.2 seconds, which is pretty crazy for 2009. And you can get these in a 6-speed manual. Now I'm not a big Corvette guy unless it's like a Z06 or some of the newer models, but a C6 is pretty nice. It has a pretty classic look, and if you're the type of guy that's in a midlife crisis and has some New Balances, then this might be the car for you. There's so many aftermarket parts and a huge community behind these cars, and I've come to appreciate them a lot more. But you can for sure find one in good condition for $30,000. Now if you wanted to get a Z06 C6 Corvette, you're gonna have to drop at least another 10 grand. And for some of y'all, it might be worth the extra horsepower, because we're talking, shoot, at least 500-600 horsepower from the factory. Or you can use that same money to get a C7 Stingray from like 2015, which personally I'd probably go that route, but it's up to you guys. I know a lot of you guys out there maybe C6 enthusiasts over C7 enthusiasts, but if I were to compare the two and had to make a decision on which one to pick, I would definitely choose the C7. And then lastly, coming in at number 10, I didn't even know this car existed. I mean, I've heard of it, but I didn't know it had so much horsepower. And we're talking about a 2012 Camaro ZL1. I've literally seen them for around $30,000, maybe $30,000 to $35,000, and they come with 580 horsepower from the factory. And it's a supercharged V8, the same exact V8 that's in the Cadillac CTS-V. And although this car is a boat, it weighs 4,100 pounds. It has a 0 to 60 of 3.9 seconds. It's the fastest car on this list, and it's the fastest gas-powered car I think you can get for $30,000. And you know, I'm not that big of an American muscle fan. I don't really care much for Camaros or Mustangs or Vettes, but if I had 30 grand to spend on one of these cars, you know where it's going. You get all this power, looks, for $30,000, you guys. That is pretty crazy for that much horsepower. And it's a manual transmission. This is literally a widowmaker car, you guys. It's like if you get married and you tell your wife you want a Camaro and you know she's fine with it, just tell her it's not a ZL1. Just tell her it's a base model Camaro, okay? Just tell her it's one of the new 4-cylinders. This car is pretty much the Z06 for the Camaro. Other than that, you guys, those are the top 10 cars that you guys can get for $30,000. Be sure to put in the comment section down below any types of cars that I may have missed out on or ones that you would pick on this list, and also recommend me the types of videos that you guys want to see. With that, be sure to subscribe, like this video, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.